Hello. I apologize for the shit audio quality. I'm a broke college student and I don't have a mic and I don't want to buy one. I decided to make this on a complete whim. I'm not a YouTuber. Sometimes there's a topic that you're just really passionate about. You know a lot about it. It could be horses, it could be dinosaurs. For me, it's Christian. Specifically Golden Age of Christian, Classic Christian. I kind of mainly fuck with Christian from like 2003 up until like 2012. Um After 2016, Christian lore just starts really getting sad, so I don't really fuck with it too hard. Now, what is the Love Quest? Well, let me tell you. By the way, if you hear any trains honking, I can't fucking help that. There's like trains that go by my dorm and they're gonna honk. And I'm not gonna cut it out because I'm not exactly sure how to. Okay, well, Love Quest aside, Christian. If you don't know who Christian is at this point in time, congratulations. You're a normal fucking human being. I'm really proud of you. Now, all I have to say to you is quit while you're ahead. Click off this video. You don't want to know more. Just leave. Chances are, though, you probably know who Christian is, considering you clicked on this video from a no-name YouTube channel about a saga in his lore. So chances are you're a little bit familiar with Christian. If not, like, you know who he is, you've at least seen him on the news for his Oedipus snut in 2021, or, read an article online or something. Typically, when someone mentions the word lolcow, if you happen to be familiar with this chronically online term, get help, touch some grass type shit, whatever, there might be a name that you would think of before any other name, and that name happens to be Christian. Born on the 24th of February 1982, Christine Weston Chandler, formerly known as Christian Weston Chandler and referred to online as Christian, is a self-identified autistic warrior, as well as the creator of the webcomic Sonichu, chronicling the adventures of his Sega Nintendo Electric Hedgehog copyright clusterfuck hybrid. This comic includes a disturbing amount of self-insertion and the parody of real-life events experienced by Christian, but these events were often, if not always, retold to be in a light where Christian comes out victorious on top, having the last laugh in the end over the trolls. The Sonichu comics are a bit of a beast of a topic for me to tackle right now, so I'm not really going to explain too much about them. But if you would want me to do a little summary, a Spark Notes thing of the Sonichu comics, so they're a little bit more digestible, kind of like this video, let me know in the comments. I might make another video because I really fucking like Christian lore. Now, with some of the context out of the way, let me just move on to the good stuff. The Love Quest. On a little side note, because the Love Quest takes place during the classic Chris era, for a more cohesive explanation, I will be using he, him pronouns while referring to Chris during that time period, just to, make it make sense, But I don't believe in actively misgendering Christine today, so anyone that I see that, calls Christine using he, him pronouns while Christine is, completely transitioned. She fucking pierced her ball skin, bro. She's fucking trans. Her dysphoria shows she, slit that shit. It was weird. Anyways, I'm not gonna question the validity of whether Christian is trans or not, but for the sake of the video, I am using he, him pronouns during most of it. I do switch over towards the end, back to she, her, when she starts identifying as she, her. Okay, now I can finally talk about the fucking Love Quest. This is the longest documented saga of Christian lore, following the virgin with rage on his conquest of getting a girlfriend. Historians usually pin the start of this long drawn-out saga on Chris's rejection by his childhood gal pal Sarah Hammer around 2000 or 2003-ish, It's not exactly sure, because at this point, Christian wasn't really online that much. This was before he got picked up by trolls. Trolls only discovered him later on. So some of the things from this time period could be a little bit fuzzy, and exact dates are not always known. As far as real friends go, I don't really believe that Christian has had any ever. He had friends in high school that were literally just paid by his dad to be his friends. So, you know. When I say friend, draw your own conclusions. Now, a couple sentences ago, your cute little ears might have picked up the word gal pal. What the fuck is a gal pal? Well, Christian uses gal pal to refer to his female friends, and he uses this term regardless whether he intends to have carnal relations with this woman or not. It's a little bit strange, but he calls all of his female friends that, and the word friends, that term, is used very loosely here. Editing Jordis here. I completely forgot to record this bit of the video, so I'm doing so right now. A character that I would like to introduce to you right now is Sarah Hammer. She is Chris Chan's childhood best friend. She was someone that Chris Chan really cared about at a certain point. She was quite mean to him, but he still thought of her fondly. She was also the first woman of note to reject him. Sarah Hammer's devastating rejection was actually not what kicked off the love saga. It was actually a discussion about gay people that was held at his class in Piedmont, Virginia Community College. He ended up making some racist and homophobic remarks that ended up getting him kicked out of the classroom. In a correspondence with one of his gal pals at the time, Christian wrote, essentially when it came to critiquing the papers of the other students, when they started talking about drug use and homosexual content, I wrote with such exclamations you'd likely hear from a black person in church. Let that sink in. Let that marinate for a second. While waiting for his next class, Christian ended up sobbing, and with no one to comfort him in his moment of weakness, he realized that this would not be an issue if he got a girlfriend. Christian himself noted that the love quest officially commenced in August of 2003, 6 months after having this revelation while sobbing after being kicked out of class. Why did it take 6 months? I don't fucking know. Honestly, knowing Christian, this might have not even been the real reason. It just could have been something he attributed to it to have, like, as a villain origin story. Although I do not doubt that he sobbed between classes after being kicked out of the first one. Now, remember how a couple moments ago I mentioned Sarah Hammer and her rejection of Christian? Well, the way that she rejected Christian was actually by telling him that she has a boyfriend. And, this is kind of significant. The statement of having a boyfriend is what made Chris develop a new phobia, for which he coined the term noviophobia. Novio comes from the Spanish word for boyfriend. Basically, this is a socially crippling fear Chris experienced over the potential that the girl he likes happens to have a boyfriend. He developed a social fear that he named noviophobia. So anyways, the revelation happens, 6 months go by, and Christian decides it's time to commence the love quest. So what does he do? Make a sign. Fucking obviously. This sign is not any sign. It's an attraction sign. On it, he wrote about himself. 21 and single white male. Shy. Smart. Young at heart. Computer skilled. Humorous. A great thinker and go-getter. Natural salesperson. Enjoys good parts of life. Diplomatic. Friendly. Loves his family. Peaceful. Very creative. He's lonely. That was written for the list of things about Chris. Now, you'd think with how desperate Christian is, he wouldn't be too picky. He had quite the list for his potential female companions. And, seeking a cute 18 to 21-year-old single female companion, 18 to 21 years of age, does not already have a boyfriend, single, average to slender body weight / body type, white, lives in Charlottesville or Ruckersville area, does not smoke or drink alcohol, happy, positive personality, average to high income, drives a vehicle. You know, aside from the whole white purist narrative, look at the fact that he says, does not smoke or drink alcohol. Now, I know this might be shocking. Believe it or not, there were some minor problems and complications created by this attraction sign for Chris Chan. Significantly, his interaction with the dean of PVCC, Mary Lee Walsh, as a result of posting this sign up around campus and hanging out next to it. Now, I just want you to take a second and imagine Chris Chan loitering around your campus with an attraction sign posted up behind him. Is that Riz? Ladies, would you tap? Somewhere mid-October, Chris Chan was approached by Mary Lee Walsh and told to stop posting signs up around his university campus. She told him that he would not find true love this way and to just give up. And she also confiscated his attraction sign, which Chris Chan took the fucking heart. He got fucking pressed. Chris Chan interpreted this advice and warning as Mary Lee Walsh putting a ban on finding true love and as a personal attack on him. He did not heed her warning, rather opting to make yet another attraction sign, resulting in yet another confiscation of it. This did little to deter Chris, and instead of taking an L on his chin, he switched things up. He began leaving copies of his Sonichu News Dash, a self-penned newsletter, around campus, and at the end of every copy, Chris included an advertisement of sorts, which read very similarly to a condensed attraction sign. This did not go unnoticed by the school, and by February, that attempt at true love was banned as well. Now, after finding the Sonichu News Dash, Mary Lee Walsh calls Chris into her office to, confront him, and during this confrontation, Chris uses the Kamehameha attack on her, which is a ripoff of the Kamehameha attack from Dragon Ball Z. That resulted in a suspension, and they also forced Chris Chan to go through counseling and, a psych evaluation. So, Kamehameha! Well, the campus did not work. Chris Chan failed at finding true love there, and the ops are on his ass. So, what is a location where Chris Chan could execute his quest to find a sweetheart? His attention turned to the Charlottesville Fashion Square Mall. Here we find my personal favorite of his methods of getting a girl. This one takes the fucking cake. Every single time I hear it, that shit cracks me the fuck up. Gents, start taking fucking notes, because if this was used on me personally, it would work. This maneuver is referred to as the red string of fate. After figuring out that his attraction signs have faced little to no success, Chris Chan decided to innovate. After watching the Excel Saga anime, Chris Chan learned about the significance of the red string and its soul ties. Chris Chan's artistic rendition of this folklore is as such. Attach a red string to a paper heart with the words, "Bring me to your owner," scrawled onto it. He would hurl this heart at women walking by and then pull the string, attempting to reel them in. Unfortunately, only 4 days after this strategy was developed, Chris would be approached by some mall security and have his heart cruelly confiscated. Shockingly, that was the last time the strategy was implemented. This event also marks Chris Chan's first run-ins with the jerk-ops. Oh my god, another word that the average individual would not fucking understand. What the fuck is a mana-jerk? What is a jerk-off? Let me tell you, when Chris Chan ran into authority positions he did not like, he would tag them with jerk, resulting in zingers such as jerk-ops and mana-jerks. Neither of those words are in the Bible, unfortunately, so yeah, new age lingo here. Now, during his time loitering around the fashion square, there are quite a few characters to note. There was a girl named Anna McLaren who worked at the PacSun at the time, and she actually wrote an account and posted it to the internet about her encounter that she named The Tale of the Crazy Pacer. As Anna recalls in her story, he would spend an uncomfortable amount of time pacing around her mall, which caught the attention of Anna and her coworkers. As Anna described, he was an okay-looking guy, not evil-looking like creepy molester dude. One day, while he was pacing outside of her job, she was dared to wave at him when he peeked in along with the rest of her coworkers. And when he peeked in next, they all waved at him, which kind of actually scared him at first, but after he got more comfortable, he like quickly waved back and then he continued with his pacing. But now he was actually looking into the PacSun with much higher frequency. Anytime anyone in that store would make eye contact with him from then on, he would wave. And it really did not take long for him to just walk into the store and just straight up introduce himself. He does so by delivering Anna a really shitty pickup line. She rejects him, and he, is like, hold on. And then he rushes off, and then he comes right back with a little business card, like a little handmade business card, and he gives it to her. And so that's how she found out about Sonichu and whatnot. Funnily enough, I'd like to mention about Anna. She ended up being one of Christian's longest standing gal pals, I believe. She did this by curbing his advances. And how did she curb his advances? I'll tell you how. She told him she was a lesbian and that she was a Mormon. And then, to be fair, she also moved to Salt Lake City, Utah in 2005. So that probably helped. Most of their friendship was behind the safety of a screen, so. Another character of note is Hannah. On the 29th of March 2005, Chris was approached by a girl who worked at the local Starbucks while sitting at the food court, taking a break from his arduous quest. And she asked Chris on a date. They had coffee together, because she worked at Starbucks. This date thrilled Chris Chan so fucking much, he started showing this girl his entire Sonichu scrapbook, and he also ended up calling his mom about it and told as many people as he could. One of the people Christian ended up telling about his successful first date was Anna McLaren, that girl from PacSun earlier, that's lesbian and a Mormon apparently. He told her, and turns out Hannah asked him out as a dare, as a prank. How did Christian react to this? Christian ran away screaming and crying. Yeah, he screamed, "No!" And he caused such a ruckus that he ended up getting banned from the fucking mall. So, But regardless, the mall was not working as a spot to pick up chicks. It was surrounded by the fucking ops. So he had to broaden his reach. And by broaden his reach, I mean Walmart. Walmart is the place that Christian's attraction sign made a brief return in. He figured out that he could actually sit and loiter at the Walmart's McDonald's in store and sit with his attraction sign for 5-6 hours at a time. And he was fucking kicked out. Kicked out just like that, literally within fucking days. He ended up having a confrontation with the managers and ending with a ban from the in-store McDonald's and consequently the Walmart. This event was actually later retold in a dramatized version of it in Christian Sonichu comics, so that's pretty fun. The banishment from the Walmart did not deter Chris Chan from finding his true love heart sweet, so he migrated to the newly opened Charlottesville Target. As I'm writing here in my notes, after being told to vacate the Target for loitering and disturbing customers, Chris offered the cops to leave peacefully if they first listened to a prepared speech. The cops refused to listen to his prepared speech. Chris fought back against this injustice, got himself restrained and handcuffed at his wrists and ankles, and then strapped to a fucking wheelchair. Christian was charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct, but ultimately the charges were dropped because the state opted out from taking the case to court. So, let that sink in. Christian was bound by the ankles and by the wrists and strapped down to a fucking chair, which, he was not very pleased about. This Target encounter was later dramatically retold by Chris in Sonichu issue 4, cleverly titled the Get Tar region, which is just the Target syllables rearranged. In the comic, Chris concludes that the managers dislike him for being a virgin with range. It was also around this time, in a show of stellar motherly support, his mom finally told him that his attraction sign makes him look R-worded. Can't say it online. Love strikes when you really least expect it, so love did strike. And it was where our protagonist was not out with his attraction sign, but rather at a spot he held near and dear to his heart, the game place. Christian met Megan Schroeder the summer of 2004 at the game place where she was a regular alongside her brother. Now for Chris, Megan was perfect. She was a girl, she was willing to talk to him, and best of all, she was boyfriend free. She was ideal. Somehow, Christian manages to befriend her. And they end up exchanging like emails and shit. They start talking outside of the fucking game place. And, Christian actually picks up a shit ton of Megan's hobbies. So, Christian immediately develops feelings for Megan. So strong were his feelings for Megan that he actually pauses the love quest until March of 2008. So he goes the entire summer, basically, without any kind of romantic anything for anyone else. As far as Christian was concerned, like, him and Megan were locked in. They were like this. She was his girlfriend. During this time, Christian also began to invest a lot of money in Sailor Moon and My Little Pony franchise shit, and would, like, give her gifts also. He even drew her as a character in his Sonichu comic as Sailor Megatoon with her sidekick Magagi the Skunk. And in June 2007, Sony announced the Chop Chop Master Onion's Rap Showdown contest to promote the video game Parappa the Rapper. The grand winner of this contest would receive 2 PSPs and an all-expenses-paid trip to Seattle for the 2007 Penny Arcade Expo. Chris hatches a beautiful plan. Recognizing his musical prowess, Christian decides to join the rap contest. And Chris's plan was to gift one of the PSPs to Megan and then invite her to go to Seattle with him and spend the night in his hotel room. And this was also in hopes that he would lose his virginity to Megan. His grandiose fucking scheme to win the fucking rapping contest was all so he could get BPD head. After vigorous campaigning, from sending emails to posting ads and the creation of dozens of dummy accounts linked to the PlayStation Network, he ended up making it into the top 10 of this rap contest. Failure was not an option for Christian. Now, there's a couple of factors that could have contributed to him doing so well. One of which is that very few people actually joined the contest, so making top 10 would not have been difficult. Another one could have been the judges' pity, because I'm sure that they could probably tell that, he was on the spectrum, and so they might have boosted some of his stuff for that. Also, he did stuff the fucking ballot. Of note, he did email his estranged half-brother and asked him to vote for him, and Cole Smithy, that's the name of his half-brother, told him that he would vote for him only if Christian asked their mother who his real biological father was. Christian didn't give a shit to do this, and he didn't care about Cole's plights, so he didn't. So Cole never voted for him, unfortunately, but I just thought that was kind of a funny interaction to throw in there, because that's just so bizarre. The winner was to be selected from a vote by PlayStation Underground members in July 2007. Everything was on the line, and Christian had nothing left to do but wait. The competition was won by Adam Stackhouse. According to Christian, he broke the rules of the contest and resented him for such. He also despised the second and third place winners for the same reason. Christian did not go down without a fight. He sent out angry emails to the Sony execs where he begged for the first prize because winning the video game contest was one of his only chances at losing his virginity to Megan and conceiving his daughter Crystal. He also raged on his PSN blog, resulting in a temporary ban from the PSN moderators. Now, you might have noticed that during this campaigning period, I haven't really mentioned Megan's involvement in it all. That's because she was on vacation with her family. She was away from her computer. When she got back to finding that Chris had bombarded her with a shit ton of spammy looking emails about, how much he missed her and whatnot. And she learns about his plan to ask her to Seattle because that's in one of the fucking giant ass emails he sends her. In one email after the fact, she says, "First, I'll start off with saying that I'm glad that you didn't win the contest because I have no interest in going on a trip alone with someone who can't keep his hands off me. I'm not your girlfriend and I never will be. When I say don't touch me, that means don't touch me. What may seem friendly to you is sexual harassment to me." Christian then proceeds to whine and beg for Megan not to leave him, yada yada. And it actually kind of works. Megan doesn't completely just ghost him. She keeps chatting with him every now and again. And things are seemingly alright, although she's a bit more jaded and guarded towards him now. One of Megan's conditions for remaining friends is that Christian removes all mentions of her off of all of his websites and whatnot. And so he mainly does that. He limits her content, whatever. I think she was checking for that, and so she actually visited the Encyclopedia Dramatica herself. Now, during this time, Christian also started dabbling in pornography and pornographic illustration. So, he had a couple of porn images he drew up there. And one of the images was him pleasuring someone that the trolls at the time believed was his imaginary twin sister. Yes, this is real. I don't even want to explain it, but her name is Crystal, which is also the same name as his fucking daughter. Don't worry about it. But basically, they thought it was her. They thought it was some weird incest fantasy with his imaginary twin sister, and that was that. Megan, however, recognized the girl in the image to be herself, and she was correct. Now, this find deeply disturbed Megan, as it would. That'll do it to him. She ends up confronting Chris. Chris did not understand why she was so upset. He believed that it was from her lack of sexual knowledge and experience. He ended up recommending some adult websites to her, if I remember correctly, and also the 40-year-old version. He recommended her to watch the 40-year-old version. This made Megan even more livid. He did end up deleting all mentions of her off of all of his websites, except for the original Catalyst image of the "She Came for Quick," which is, him fingering Megan. And he didn't delete it, rather he zoomed in so that the face doesn't show. And, Megan being absolutely disgusted by that, she just cut all ties. So, by the way, Megan's identity was not actually known until Christian got into a series of editing wars on the Encyclopedia Dramatica, where he started editing in a bunch of information about himself to, counteract the trolls, and ended up just fucking name-dropping Megan, and just, that's how they know who Megan is. It is 2:02 a.m. right now, and I want to shower and go sleep. I will probably continue recording this tomorrow. God. Fuck. It has been 2 days since I last sat down to record this. We left off with the editing war that got Christian to reveal Megan's identity. Well, that editing war was actually what made his infamy as a lolcow boom. Chris all of a sudden began to receive some attention, and in fact by some attention I mean lots of attention, from attractive boyfriend-free girls who happened to be fans of Sonichu and had no connection to trolling. Is what I would say if I was a liar. Post-2008, Christian began to get serially catfished by people from the Encyclopedia Dramatica and the Something Awful forums, and after realizing how chronically online Christian truly was, the trolls took no time in exploiting his loneliness. Julie was a catfish persona created by one of Chris's most antagonistic trolls from back in his golden age, Blue Spike, who was actually bad enough of a troll that he managed to get Chris to shove a Sonichu medallion up his ass. Now, there's no video footage of this that exists to this day online, even though it was supposedly happening over a video call. There is, however, audio footage of this that you can find online. Feel free to explore it. I will not be showing it. It's pretty graphic, but Christian does shove a Sonichu medallion up his ass. One of the most notable trolls he ended up dating during this time was called Julie Movana, a Moldovan Methodist baddie. She was a Sonichu fan who was the former Significant Sweethearts Panda Halo's successor. Panda Halo was an interesting troll, but for the sake of only covering like the most important people, I'm just gonna skip over her, but she's pretty fun. She ends up getting killed off by getting hit by a truck. Editing Jordis here, this isn't super important to the plot of the video, but I guess Sarah actually died in the Black Saturday bushfires of February 2009, according to the Wikipedia. I don't exactly know where I got the hit by a truck from. I do believe one of his sweethearts was killed off by a truck, but I was just talking off the top of my head, so I think I might have confused it with another thing. One of the most infamous videos to come out of the golden age of Christian was a video of Chris making love to a blow-up doll while screaming, "Julie! Julie!" And, during this time, Blue Spike, along with the help of Clyde Cash, another significant troll during this time, which I will not explain because there's too much lore and this video is already going to be long enough. Now, Clyde Cash did belong to a group of trolls called the Miscreants. Not super important to the overall story, so I won't explain what the Miscreants are, but just take it at face value. It's a group of trolls. Blue Spike and Clyde Cash convinced Chris that Julie was kidnapped by her abusive older brother Max, taken to the Miscreants' headquarters in Cleveland, Ohio, and is being held there until she is inevitably shipped off to China. If this information still has you on the edge of your seat, Julie isn't real. There was no Julie, and there's no Julie anywhere in Cleveland, Ohio being held hostage that has any connection to Chris. Now, it is Cleveland, Ohio, so there might have been a kidnapped Julie somewhere, but it wasn't Chris's Julie. Now, despite how outlandish everything I've just said sounds, Christian still believed it and drove all the way to Ohio and even knocked on the door of the address given trying to look for Julie. After numerous failed online relationships, Christian decided that e-sex was just not worth it. Rather, he would return his search to a girl somewhere in his area again. Christian's efforts of finding a boyfriend-free girl in his area were cut kinda short in the early summer of 2009 with meeting Emily. Emily was the head of the Sonichu girls and had taken Chris up on his offer to go on a date and asked him out to lunch. Christian actually stood her up on the first date they scheduled over anxiety that she was fake that was emboldened by his mother and father. But they did finally meet on the 19th of March 2009, only 2 days after standing her up initially, and Christian brought his at the time 81-year-old father with him. After an uncomfortable amount of time of talking to mainly Bob, Emily and Chris finally break away to go on the rest of their date. During this time, Emily, and I shit you the fuck not, gets swept away by the man in the pickle suit. This isn't in my script, but I feel like I should mention the man in the pickle suit is like a recurring Christian troll that happens to be online, and they decided to go deep enough to make him have a real-life consequence effect on Chris. The Christian trolling community never ceased to amaze me and never ceases to amaze me to this very day. Christian and Emily were approached by Emily's friend Marvin, who was wearing a pickle suit, and then he asked her to go see a movie with him, which she accepted and walked off. Later on in the day, Emily called Christian, told him that he was too touchy on their date, and that also her and the pickle man had passionate sex, and that any woman Christian mistreated in the future would also be swept away by the pickle man. Also during this time, which is not super important to the love quest, but it's kind of a part of it, so I figured I'd put that in there, the trolls actually managed to set Christian up on a date in July of 2009 with an overweight woman named Farron. In typical Christian fashion, he was pretty touchy during the day and kind of awkward, and she ended up dumping him right after it ended. So that went absolutely nowhere, but the fact that the trolls actually managed to set Christian up on a date is beyond me. This has nothing to do with the substance of the video, but the girls one room over from us are fucking cunts and won't shut the fuck up past like 5 p.m. until like 2 a.m. on like most nights. They're really annoying, and if their loudness bleeds into this video, I'm not going to edit it out or re-record anything. Sorry, I really had to vent my frustrations. They complained about us slamming our door one time, but then ever since then, they just have been the loudest. There has been noise complaints from all of the rooms around them except from ours because me and my roommate don't believe in complaining about that shit. At this point, Christian's motivation for attending a true and honest sweetheart was waning, and this resulted in a hiatus until late October 2009. His love quest was resumed with the attempt to pry away Liquid Chris's girlfriend, Casey. Here we have a troll that has little to do with the love quest as a whole overall, but he still bleeds into it. Liquid Chris. It's a guy who pretended to be Chris online and even went as far as to say that he was the original Chris and that the original Chris was not actually Chris. It was Ian Brandon Anderson or something. It doesn't really matter, but Liquid Chris had a girlfriend named Casey, and Chris tried to, swat her away from him, which he managed to somewhat successfully do because he ended up, dating her for a little bit. Casey did end up breaking up with him due to his increasingly erratic behavior. Not that she was ever really with him, but, she broke up with him. He even met Casey on multiple occasions in person, so that was of note. In 2010, there was a girl only referred to online as the Wallflower, which was an in-real-life female friend that Chris Chan made. Chris was repeatedly told by the Wallflower that she was not interested in a relationship, but that did not prevent the Virgin with Rage to drop the idea of ever being romantically entangled with her. The Wallflower ended up cutting all ties with Chris Chan after her information was leaked to the Wikipedia. Chris also attempted to use his Nintendo DS-size Flipnote Hatena as a dating site, making a Flipnote for any woman he tagged or that tagged him. This was just a breeding ground for trolls to swoop in and troll him some more, and I'm pretty sure his Flipnote ended up getting banned. This part is not in my notes, but I'm like 90% sure that Chris Note's Flipnote ended up getting banned because of how he was using it for picking up women. Chris Chan's love quest gets a little less interesting after this point, but it did continue through the mid-2010s with the creation of his OkCupid account, through which he met another sweetheart, Catherine, in around mid-2014. That also didn't work, because Catherine, too, was a troll. Not much is known about Catherine, other than the fact that she's not real, and that when she broke up with him, Chris ended up raging really badly, and that led to some funny videos being made. The most notable thing about Catherine was her use of British English and the way that she spelled things in their chats, which ended up influencing Chris's spelling of things down the line. To this present day, he still uses British English. Christian's love quest comes to a close after the idea guys come into the picture. By the late 2010s, Christian was losing popularity and was left mainly untouched by trolls, aside from minor jabs from time to time, and was at his most vulnerable. During this time, Christian was actually very much declining in mental health, so he was a really easy target. Around the later 2010s, Christian also finally had the pronoun switch and started going by Christine Weston Chandler, so from this point on in the video, which there shouldn't be that much left anyways, I will be using she/her pronouns. The idea guys were a small group of trolls who exploited Christian's escapist fantasies and declining mental state, and used this to their advantage by role-playing as her imaginary friends. One thing that makes their trolling attempts truly stand out is their influence on Dimension 1218, the dimension that Sonichu and the Chaotic Combo reside in. They brought Nazis into Quickville, and even going as far as creating ovens for the residents. There's nothing funny about World War II or concentration camps, believe me guys, but I am Jewish, so I'm semi-legally, look at this, I literally have Shabbat candles right here. Nothing about World War II or the plight of the Jewish peoples is funny. Anyways, aside from recreating World War II atrocities in Quickville, the idea guys also extorted like $6,000 out of Chris Chan. That's neither here nor there, but the main catalyst of their trolling, which ended the love quest, is that they convinced Chris that she was in a polyamorous marriage with her characters Majitan Sonichu, Crizel Rosechu, and Sylvana. And eventually, they even managed to add Mewtwo, the Pokemon, to that polyamorous marriage as well, so strong was the pious bond of marriage for Christine that in 2018, when approached by a female fan cosplaying her, she said she was not interested in dating her. Stronger even were her delusions, to the point where there even exists a video of Chris Chan making out with one of her fictional characters, it being Air, just right next to her, after getting high with her friend group that was just full of teenagers. So, Christian's love saga was something that spanned over decades, and this video did not cover a lot of events for the sake of brevity, but I tried to fit in the most important and humorous information that would be entertaining enough to allow you to endure the sound of my yapping for this long. With many downs and little to no ups, the love quest, despite being foundationally based upon Christian's unwavering hope, ultimately went nowhere, and Christian's virginity was lost to a prostitute, which he hired and bonded with over their shared native ancestry, Chris himself possessing none. So, what is the final takeaway of all of this? Well, there's none. At the end of the day, I'm an individual who has invested far too much time in keeping up with Christian over the past 5 years, and you are someone who clicked on this video and who has now wasted however long the runtime of this shit is. Editing me here, it's like 40 minutes long. You spent 40 minutes watching a Christian lore video. You're just listening to a story about a severely autistic individual getting needlessly clowned on by the internet, which has resulted in Christian developments more horrific than any kind of timeline I could have imagined when I first stumbled across a video of her raging at the trolls to delete everything about her family off the internet. If you're still sitting here watching this video, I want you to ask yourself, are we really better than the trolls who went through with harassing her? After all, we really are just enabling bystanders. Tortoise out. And we're done! I want all of you to start clapping. Yay! Congratulations! Congratulations! Editing Jordas here. If you have stuck around this long to finish the entirety of this fucking video, I feel a little bit of pity for you, but more than that, I'd like to thank you for actually, listening to me babble about Christian for like 40 minutes straight. Let me know if you'd like to see any more videos in the future, and Jordas out.
Hello, I'm Christine Weston Chandler, and today I have come to Animal House in my quest to find a boyfriend-free girl.